Let's go to Jake Tapper, because I think this one is the only example of an honest reporter from yesterday on the Durham Report. Here's what he said on CNN.
Regardless, the report is now here. It has dropped, and it might not have produced everything of what some Republicans hoped for. It is, regardless, devastating to the FBI, and to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump.
Wait, what? Now, so you know, Jake Tapper was one of the first ones to really jump on that bandwagon and say, this is true. He is involved in a Russia scandal. So for him to reverse himself, that's a big deal. For him to be on CNN and reverse himself, that's a big deal. Maybe we're starting to see a little bit of actual journalism come out from Jake Tapper. Now, here's what we found out. This is quite amazing. What we found out yesterday was the FBI had zero intel or faith in any of this. So they opened an investigation on something they had no faith on. They had no intel. And more importantly, what we found out is that they had been briefed on the fact that Hillary and her campaign was going to discredit Trump by claiming Russian collusion. Joe Biden was made aware of Clinton campaign plans. He was told in a meeting August 3rd, 2016, by then CIA Director John Brennan in the Oval with Barack Obama, Biden, and James Comey, the FBI director, and other senior administration officials. They were discussing Russia's efforts to interfere in the election. And according to Brennan's handwritten note and his recollections from the meeting, he briefed on relevant intelligence known to date on Russian election interference, including this is in a quote, the Clinton plan intelligence. Now, what was that? Durham writes, specifically, Director Brennan's declassified handwritten notes reflect that he briefed the meeting's participants regarding the alleged approval by Hillary Clinton on the 26th of July of a proposal from one of her campaign advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by the Russian security services, end quote. Now, how can any American say this is not a big deal? Not only did all of this, and we knew it came from the Clinton campaign. Remember the early stories this came from a GOP operative. Remember, that was the early thing. This came from a GOP operative. They were doing research. No. The president, the FBI, the CIA, everyone knew that it was decided on July 26th and then briefed in the Oval in August that Hillary Clinton had something called the Clinton Plan Intelligence, where she would release things to try to get the spotlight off of her email scandal. Durham noted that even though Comey was in attendance at this meeting, it did not spark any FBI action. So Comey knew from the beginning. So every time you saw Comey on television saying, well, we don't know, and there's some evidence that we really have to look into, he had been briefed in August and took no action on Hillary Clinton. Then when the Durham Report came out, not the Durham Report, the Christopher Steele file, when that came out, they all knew that that was the Clinton Plan Intelligence. The Durham Report goes on to say none of them had any faith in it at all. In fact, while filing for the FISA court filings to be able to spy on Trump, the Durham Report says the agents didn't then or in hindsight have any belief that any of these things were true. Okay, so let's just start adding up the crimes here. You have intel that one campaign is going to release false information to tie them to the Russians. Your FBI knows it. Your CIA director is briefing the president, the vice president, Joe Biden, about the Clinton plan intelligence. And they do nothing. But then when they are delivered something that they know comes from the Clinton campaign, they turn on the machine. The FBI then starts leaking this information to the press, which they have zero confidence in. Durham noted that during Comey's attendance at this meeting, it didn't spark any FBI action. He further highlighted an August 22nd, 2016 email that an FBI cyber analyst sent to the Bureau employees and senior intelligence officials informing them of the details of the Clinton plan. They failed to remember any follow-up actions the Bureau might have taken after the second briefing on it. Then the FBI, when they got the Steele dossier, remember, the one that no one in the administration believed anything in it, the one that they knew came from Clinton, the one they had been told months before was coming in the Clinton campaign, the Clinton plan intelligence. When they got it, they went to Christopher Steele. He's the author of the dossier, and offered $1 million. We'll pay you and pay your primary sources money if anyone is able to prove this. So now, when Hillary Clinton's operatives couldn't get anything really solid, they pass it to the FBI. The FBI looks at this and goes, this is garbage. Yeah, I know, but it could be true. All right, offer him $1 million if he can come up with something. Okay, anybody have a problem with that? Anybody? Then they went, one of the FBI agents, Brian Otten, traveled to Rome and met with Steele on October 2016. And he made the offer knowing that it relied primarily on one person or subsource. The Bureau paid that subsource. That subsource was Igor Danchenko. They paid him almost $250,000, even after he was unable to provide any evidence for a single claim. Your tax dollars paid him. Now, this is going to get worse. More shockingly, according to the Durham Report, the FBI had significant evidence that Danchenko himself was Russian intelligence. It had closed a counterintelligence investigation into him in 2011 because agents mistakenly believed he had left the country. The FBI investigated Danchenko as a possible Russian spy from 2009 to 11 after a colleague at the Brookings Institute, the left-leaning think tank where he worked, told the FBI that Danchenko raised the prospect of paying him for classified information if the colleague joined the Obama administration. A second Brookings employee also told the FBI he suspected Danchenko of being connected to Russian intelligence. It became a full-fledged investigation when the FBI realized that Danchenko was a known associate of two other spies and had contacts with known Russian intelligence offices. and had said he wanted to join the Russian diplomatic service. He also told another person that he worked on special matters for the Russian army and that his Russian passport listed him as connected to the Russian military intelligence service. They paid him $250,000 to prove that Trump was colluding with people like him. He couldn't come up with that evidence. Let me take you to Jonathan Turley. Jonathan Turley said the AP tried to dismiss this as not the crime of a century that Donald Trump termed it. But whether or not anyone will ever be held accountable is hard to get around, that indeed nothing like this has ever been done before, or that it was so damaging and divisive to our nation. What's criminal is that it appears people might get away with it. That doesn't mean it wasn't the crime of the century. It just means people are not being held to account. There is so much wrongdoing involved in all of this, but let's point out one big lie that we always knew was a lie, which the report now confirms. Do you remember when Adam Schiff, then the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, claimed he had seen evidence that he couldn't share with us demonstrating the Russian collusion? Now that the report verifies there never was anything, what was that evidence, Adam? Given Durham's findings that there was no basis for action taken by the FBI in launching the investigation, it would be a good time for former House Intelligence Chair Adam Schiff to reveal the evidence that showed the Russian collusion. There is no evidence. So here's what you have, America. You have a former president that knew someone was going to attack the Republican candidate and make up a story about Russian intelligence so the press would not talk to Hillary Clinton about her emails. The president knew about it, the vice president knew about it, the CIA knew about it, and the FBI knew about it. But they took no action at all. Now, if that isn't throwing an election, I don't know what is. If that's not making sure your person wins because you immediately follow it up with being delivered that you know is false, being delivered, and then start leaking everything to the press from official sources. I don't know. I'm not going to be happy until people go to jail. Now, the FBI did come out and they said in their statement, the conduct in the 2016 and 2017 special counsel Durham examined was the reason that the current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, which now have been in place for some time. So they fixed it. Nothing to see here. No one went to jail. No one was fired. No one was held accountable. But trust us, they say, we've fixed it. Boy, I'm so close to using a word that I know I can't use and follow it with you to the FBI. There is a serious problem. So how do we fix it? Because they ain't going to fix it. I'll tell you in 60 seconds. There is so much more to report on what happened yesterday, but I want to give you a little ray of hope here. Got a Twitter message from somebody who follows me, Marcus. I have personally moved on from Trump, but I can clearly understand why President Trump can't move forward. You want to pay President Trump back for everything that he did, then you should be on the bandwagon, because the best thing we can do is make sure the people who did that to him and would do that to you or anybody else that they disagree with goes to jail. I can't move on. Dear God, who's going to hold the Democrats accountable? Well, I'm not sure it's the Republicans.